Hello guys, welcome back to TSpec TV. It has been way too long since we last uploaded a video, but I'm gonna get into all of that in a bit. But firstly, I should start off by saying that you may remember in the previous video quite a lot was happening to my Defender, and a few other things have happened off camera as well. So it's had a whole host of kind of upgrades over the past month or two, which I'm going to run through in this video and talk about where we've been and what's to come. So I'm going to start off by coming around to the back of the vehicle, because of course the main article is this, the glorious new cross member, which just makes the back of this thing look so much better than before. And the old one is right down here. Now when I look at this, what it makes me think of is those programs you see on TV when they dug up tanks and planes from the Second World War that have been buried underground for 70 odd years. And the thing is, this hasn't been buried underground for 70 odd years. A couple of months ago it was on the back of my Defender, which is a slightly scary thought. And if we actually come round to this side, you can see just how much crap is inside it. There's dirt and bits of, well, my Defender inside the chassis rails. And the thing is, when we removed this, those were full of wet mud. And when I say wet mud, that would have been wet for a very long time, because it's not going to dry out in there. And if we also look at the exhaust side of the cross member, you can see there's a huge gaping hole where it's just been eaten away. And actually as well, about, what was it, last winter I think, this exhaust mount had to be replaced as well, because that had just been eaten away. So that was you know, one of the first signs that maybe this needed to be sorted out sooner rather than later. And then also if we come round to the other side, you can see the end is actually missing, because initially we cut off one of the ends to see if the center bit was in good enough condition that we could just kind of repair this bit and get rid of the ends and replace those, because these tend to be some of the worst bits because they collect mud from the rear wheels and they're sort of open in here, whereas this bit is a bit more solid. But as it turns out, the center bit was terrible as well. You could just poke through it with a screwdriver, so there are actually holes on the other side of it, I believe, that we've made. And like I said, you can just see it just looks like some kind of Second World War relic. And that meant cutting off the old cross member at the chassis rails and fitting this new one I bought from Makeover. And that also means removing a bunch of stuff underneath down there, such as the fuel tank. So if we come inside, you can actually see this panel here, which was there before we'd even started. So I presume a previous owner has made this cutout in order to replace the fuel pump, so I guess it has a new fuel pump at some point. And as you can also see, I've tidied up. I mean, it's messy again now, but there used to be some manky carpeting on the sides here, and then it's just a plywood board in the middle. So that's all been removed because it was just in a terrible state as well. And I'm going to replace that with some sound insulation and a rubber mat, I think, at some point in the future. So that's that. And then if we come down here, all the tow bar assembly has been sandblasted and repainted. There's a new aluminium fuel tank guard, and then up here, this is a rail which runs along the top of the cross member and attaches the body and the cross member using these tabs. That rail is galvanized, and the screws are stainless steel. The cross member is just standard, not galvanized or anything like that, because of the difficulty with welding it. However, I will be looking into getting some kind of rust protection, chassis protection stuff in the very near future, so that it doesn't look like this anytime soon. Something else you may have just noticed is that the rear windscreen wiper is missing. That's because, yep, there's my hand, the wiper motor died. So I've ordered a new one of those. That's coming soon, I hope. This spare wheel carrier is going to be going in the bin, because I'm going to be getting a new ORE, it's a bit of a weird tongue twister, ORE spare wheel carrier, which coming very soon. And that was actually part of the reason I wanted a new cross member now, was because ORE, who we're brand ambassadors for, have 2 new products coming out very soon that need to mount onto the cross member, and it needs to be a good cross member. Not good cross member, good cross member. So it has to mount onto a good solid cross member using the brackets around all the holes here. So that was part of the reason I wanted to get it done now, other than the fact that it looked like that. If I knew it looked like that, I would have done it way sooner. So there's going to be a new spare wheel carrier on there, something else coming on top of that. Wiper will go back on rear's going to be polished. This whole thing is going to look a lot better. And then I'm also going to get some tuff-rok stainless steel mud flap brackets as well for our TSPEC TV tuff-rok mud flaps, which you can also buy if you go to tspectv.com. The front ones are still on because there was no need to remove those, but of course there was no point in putting the old standard brackets back on to this glorious new cross member. So the stainless steel brackets will come soon. Spare wheel carrier, windscreen wiper, polish, and one other thing coming in the future as well, and it's going to look so much better. Now, there have been some other changes as well, which you may have spotted already, or you just saw some teasers online, I don't know. But the biggest one, obviously, is the wheels. In the previous video, I said I was doing something with the wheels. I'd had the tyres removed, I'd sandblasted them, and I was going to repaint them. And I have, in fact, repainted them black. If you're a new viewer, they were kind of silver, I guess, before, but they had some surface rust, some scratches, and so on. They weren't looking great, so I thought it'd be the perfect time to make a little project out of this and sandblast them using this as new sandblaster, respray them black, and I think they just look so much better. They won't last forever, of course. It was just a DIY job, but it cost next to nothing to do, and it was the perfect time to do it while I was off the road. So I might still get some alloy wheels, smart alloy wheels, at some point in the future, but for now I just think these look really cool. Next up are the door hinges. In a recent video, Nissa opened the passenger door only for it to almost fall off, because in that very moment the hinges decided to break. So I ordered some standard new Defender door hinges. I would have loved to go for something like Optimil, but they're just way too expensive for me to justify, considering they are door hinges. So I got some standard ones, but most importantly with stainless steel fittings, so they should be fine for the future, and if they need to be replaced, then they will come off easily, I hope, relatively. And they were unpainted when I got them, so I've painted them black because I couldn't be bothered to get them to match the body color, and frankly I think it ties in really nicely with the wheels. And also, if I get some rock or tree sliders in the future that are black, I think it'll work really well with those also. I think that was all of the changes since the previous video. I always hate doing these kind of run-throughs or overviews of mods and things because I always forget things, and then it really bugs me when I come to the edit. But that should be everything, at least the biggest changes anyway, and that's the most important part. But anyway, with all of that stuff out of the way, I think we should head out for a drive and talk about what's to come for TSPEC TV. Sudden transition before we head off. Now, when we make these videos, we tend to take a lot of pictures as well, because they're great for putting on our social media pages. And this spot where I've been filming up until now is one of my favorite places to come to, and I just wanted to share with you the view behind me, because you can actually see the fjord out there. And I took one of my favorite pictures ever with the Land Rover 101 when I was filming my video with it last summer, with the fjord in the background, and I was just trying to recreate that with my Defender right now. I'm just enjoying the view, basically, and I thought I would share it with you guys. So we are back on the road, and my other GoPro has just died as soon as I turned it on, so you have to excuse me for the fact that there's no external view for this last bit of the video. There's just a few more points I want to discuss about basically what's to come for TSPEC TV, and as you've seen, my Defender has had quite a lot of improvements lately, but there's still a lot more to come. There's still a lot more I want to do to it. I want to spruce up the interior a bit more. The steering is still a bit funky, so there's more to come on that, believe it or not, even though that has been there the entirety of this year. We're now in August. A few more exterior bits as well. Like I said, there's ORE parts coming. I'm going to get some kind of rust protection stuff put on the chassis at some point. And on that point, I think from here on out, and before you just start furiously typing away in the comments section that that's not what a Defender's for, well, just hear me out. But basically, I don't think I'm going to be using this Defender in the same way as I have been in the past. For example, if you've seen our Earth Day off-roading video, I don't think I'm going to be doing things like that with it again necessarily, because it's done 300,000 kilometers now. It's 20 years old, and you saw the state of that cross member, and I think we just about saved the chassis, but I don't really want to make it any worse, because we cleaned out a lot of crap from the chassis, and you saw, like I said, how much was in the cross member. But hear me out. I won't be getting rid of the Defender. I'll be keeping it. I'll just be a bit more gentle with it from now on. Won't be doing any hardcore off-roading, but I may look into the possibility of getting a second vehicle, which I will turn into something that can just be used and abused off-road. Maybe, say, a Discovery, an old raggy Discovery that we can turn into something, you know, only for off-road use. I don't know, but something fun that can just be used and abused without me worrying about it too much, because if I use this, I will just be worrying about it, I think, because it's, yeah, wasn't in the best shape when we started taking things apart. So that's that. And on the point of the cross member, I also want to say a big thank you to someone who does not get enough credit on TierSpec TV, and that is our grandfather. And I say our because Nissa and I are cousins, if you didn't know, so he is our grandfather. But he spends a lot of his time, or most of his time, in the workshop on the farm, doing whatever needs doing, fixing whatever needs fixing. So when my cross member needed to be replaced, he was all hands on deck to help out. He's also a skilled kind of metal worker, welder, that kind of thing. So it's exactly his kind of job, and frankly I don't think it would have happened without him. So I've got to say a huge thank you to him. You've probably seen him in some of the B-roll on this video of the cross member fitting, and to be honest, it was him and Nissa. I should say thank you to Nissa as well, because it was them that did the majority of the work. I wasn't always around to help out, but without those two, it wouldn't have happened. So huge thanks to our grandfather, because like I said, he doesn't get enough credit on this channel. He probably does a lot more than you guys realize when we're working on big projects. So thanks to him. And then the last thing I think I want to talk about, I'm sure I've forgotten something, I always forget things, but the last thing is LRO, because so many of you have been asking whether or not we are going to be going to LRO this year. We're, I think, yeah, like a month, less than a month now. I think it was like a month yesterday or something until LRO, which is just scary, frankly. And of course we would love to go. We've had so much support for us to come back again, but as I actually mentioned previously in this video, we do have full-time jobs as well, so it's about getting time off and seeing if we can work around that to come to LRO, because again, if you didn't know, we live in Denmark, not the UK. A lot of you think we live in the UK, but we don't. So we'd have to get the Monday, Friday off to be able to travel, so we can be there Saturday, Sunday. So hopefully we can make that work. We've done it in the past, but I'm not making any promises for now. But if you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, we'll be updating you on there as soon as we know whether or not we'll be able to go. Otherwise, there's still plenty more to come, as I said, with this Defender, but also Nissa and the Discovery 2 will be coming back. There's been a lot of love for the Disco 2, and on top of that, other projects and surprises I'm sure will crop up along the way that even we don't know about. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.